Welcome back, and let's just get you a quick breaking update on the twin attacks in Iran. According to reports, the suicide bomber at the Khomeini shrine was identified to be a woman. So she was a woman, a female suicide bomber. Another terrorist at the shrine reportedly killed himself by consuming cyanide. So that is the information coming in about the attack that took place at the very holy Ayatollah Khomeini shrine, in which what we hear is that one of the suicide bomber was a female. There have been multiple attacks in the Iranian capital of Tehran, twin attacks that we have been getting you news about. The shooting incident from inside the Iranian parliament. We in fact even heard gunshots and a heavy exchange of gunfire when that attack was made, when these gunmen stormed the parliament building in Iran. And the latest update is about the attack that took place at the Imam Khomeini shrine, the mausoleum, that also came under attack. Several casualties are feared, and an update with regards to the shooting incident at the Iranian parliament is that one guard, in fact, was shot at. He succumbed to his injuries as well. So all this news trickling in about the twin attacks that took place at Iran's parliament and at the very holy Khomeini mausoleum, wherein a female suicide bomber is said to have been part of that attack that took place. The security guard, as I just mentioned, was also killed when gunmen burst into the parliament complex. We are hearing that the attackers, in fact, they were armed assailants, and they began firing as soon as they entered the parliament complex, first shooting at the security guard, who finally succumbed to his injuries. And we're also getting in some reports about how one of the attacker was carrying along with him a pistol, while the others were armed with AK-47 rifles. We're still waiting for a confirmation on that bit of news, but the news that we've just received is that one of the attackers in the Khomeini mausoleum attack was believed to be a female suicide bomber. Editor India Today, Padmaja Joshi, is with us, and she in fact has been tracking all the information coming in. Padmaja, tell us a little bit more about those twin attacks. What else have you been able to gather from the news agencies?
Avantika, first of all, let's just keep our focus on this picture. It is the first image ever of the attacker. It is almost, in fact, reminiscent, remember, of the first ever image that we saw during the 26/11 attacks of Ajmal Amir Kasab. Here is this man framed against this window. In fact, let me just get in more from my colleague Shiv Arur as well. Shiv, very, very significant. We see the kind of arms that this man had. Here we have one of at least 3 attackers who had entered the parliament building. Just take us through about the significance of this particular picture, first of all, of the kind of arms that these men had.
Well, that appears to be a Kalashnikov assault rifle, Padmaja. Very rare to get this kind of image. It's actually surprising that these terrorists, trained as they appear to be, would allow themselves to be so vulnerable by actually appearing in a window. Remember that during 26/11, the terrorists were seen outside, but never at a window. There were no pictures of them because standard operating procedure always dictates that terrorists remain out of, out of view as far as windows are concerned. Because when such an operation is taking place, you can bet your last buck that there will be snipers from the Iranian military who will be training their focus at every one of these vantage points, hoping to try and get one of these terrorists. Now, we have no confirmation yet about the condition of this particular terrorist, whether he's been eliminated or suppressed just yet, but this provides a very rare glimpse of anti-terror operations, where this particular terrorist, you can just about make out his face very clearly, wearing a watch or some kind of band on his right wrist, holding a Kalashnikov rifle with a folded butt. This appears to be an AK-47, but could be another form of a Kalashnikov assault rifle as well. He's all in black. No other real giveaway about what his affiliations might be, because this is a pretty blurred image. But like I said, pretty clear that this is one of the terrorists. He's appeared here at this window, obviously trying to get a sense of his bearings, trying to get a sense of what the counterattack might actually be, taking a peek outside the window, even if momentarily, to see what the counterattack by the Iranian forces might actually be. So pretty rare image to actually capture.
Absolutely. And Shiv, the other significant thing is, judging by the kind of security that would normally be in and around the Parliament building, the fact that these three men actually managed to gain access, and judging from this particular picture, at least managed to get onto one of the upper floors. The kind of detailing, the possibility of these men having actually done a recce of this entire area also cannot be ruled out.
Absolutely cannot be ruled out. Two things: reconnaissance, the possibility of having inside help cannot be ruled out. And let's remember, Padmaja, that terrorists who target high-value, high-security establishments like Parliament buildings, you can bet that they are trained in commando operations, which basically means that these are men who not only probably have some kind of internal help, but also have understanding of the terrain, the contours of that Parliament building. They've probably studied maps in a great level of detail and have a real sense of where they're headed. They have sharp objectives. It's not just about extracting the maximum number of casualties, but as you said, he's not only been able to infiltrate the many cordons of security that exist in Parliament buildings of this kind, especially in Iran, which is known to have factional problems, religious problems, and terrorism problems, but he's been able to get to a couple of floors. Beating that kind of security is no easy task. You can bet that this means a certain amount of special forces training, military combat and commando style training to actually be able to get there. And also remember, these people are not just trained to infiltrate, get into these buildings and extract casualties, but also to try and sustain the operation for as long as possible so they can create maximum damage.
Yes, Avantika, back to you.
I just wanted to understand from you, and if you could just ask Shiv as well, that why Iran finds itself coming under attack from these terrorists, because very recently Iran had also very strongly condemned the London terror attacks, urging other Western nations to see this as a wake-up call. Is that why, or is it related to anything to do with the Qatar crisis?
Absolutely. In fact, we will put that to Shiv as well. And also the other, before we look at the larger geopolitical implications or the reasons why this could have been, Iran would have been a target of the attack, very quickly, because Shiv, you're also someone who analyzes military tactics very closely. You spoke about possible military training. Just look at the bearings, the posture, the way that he's handling his arm. Again, that does seem to get reinforced. This is not just some Johnny-come-lately, some ragtag terrorists, the kinds who are pushed into Kashmir occasionally. This seems to be a highly trained and well-equipped person with specialized training.
No doubt about it. From the very few things that I can deduce from this image, what I can tell you, and this is what I take away from this image. This is a picture taken right in the middle of operations. This is a terrorist captured in the middle of operations. He's probably fired a few rounds right before this picture was taken, perhaps spilled some blood as well. What he's doing here, if I can, because everything about terrorism training says stay out of harm's way, try and extend the operation for as long as possible. Now, coming to a window and actually stepping out is asking for trouble. There would be snipers who'd be able to take out a man like that very, very easily, but still this particular terrorist has chosen to stand in front of a window and get his bearings. The probable reason for that is the operation is probably nearing an end. He is aware that the counter-terrorism forces are closing in, and he needs to get a personal sense, a latest update on what he is actually facing from the outside, and that's why he's taken a calculated risk with his weapon cocked, standing in front of the window to get a sense of what is outside so he can plan his next course of action.
All right, Padmaja there speaking to Shiv about the image that we're getting to see. But Padmaja, we have talked in detail about this image that, is also very defining, and we can see it right now. But what is the other information that you're getting with regards to this attack? Any more updates on the casualties or any other injuries?
All right. So now what we do know, the information that we have put out so far, Avantika, and is that at least a few attackers, in fact, 5 people have been confirmed killed in the Iran parliament siege. At least 2 attackers, one of them was wearing a suicide vest, is still inside the building. And yes, there are hostages involved. That's the very latest that we are hearing. In fact, my colleague Ankit Tyagi, we'll try and get him on the line as well. 8 people were injured. That was what was speculated earlier. There were 3 attackers at the Khomeini shrine, including a woman suicide bomber who set off her explosives. The second attacker consumed cyanide. The third has now been arrested. 1 person has been killed and 5 injured in the shrine attack. That's as far as the Khomeini shrine is concerned. And in Parliament itself, the latest that we are hearing is that 2 attackers, one of them wearing a suicide vest, is still inside the building, and 5 people are confirmed killed. But the larger question that you were asking, Avantika, earlier, and let me put that to Shiv as well, why Iran? Especially at this juncture when we have the entire Qatari crisis also taking place, you have the attack in Afghanistan that took place earlier. In the entire context, why Iran?
Well, Iran geopolitically is at a huge number of crossroads. You've got problems with Trump already happening. You've got the crisis in the Middle East. You've got Israel, Saudi Arabia, and several other countries that have problems already with Iran. The Syrian crisis and many of the things happening within Syria are seen to have groups that have an Iranian hand in them as well. So there are many complications. There are factions within Iran, which happens to be a Shia Muslim state. There are religious factions within the country that are against the government in Iran as well. So until we have a perfect sense of who these terrorists are, the possibilities actually are tantalizingly large. They could be from anywhere. Does this have some kind of an ISIS imprint? Were these commandos from somewhere else? Was this a terrorist attack that has a link to Pakistan by some stretch of imagination? All of those are current possibilities. Remember, terrorist attacks in the past in Iran have had a very strong factional element in them because of the warring sections within the Iranian system, within the Iranian military as well as some of the agencies abroad, including the Hezbollah, which have had Iranian support. So who these persons are, we'll have to wait until they actually claim credit, but there is no surprise really that this has happened in Iran.
Right. Padmaja, just stay on with me. We also have with us Hamza Amir with the very latest. Hamza, why don't you just first update us with the information that you have? We already got a chance to hear that video in which one can hear a heavy exchange of gunfire, but what's the latest? All right, we're going to reconnect to Hamza in just a bit. But, speaking of that video, Padmaja, we heard, the heavy exchange of gunfire. Okay, I'm told that we are joined by editor India Today, Shiv Arur. Shiv, we got a chance to hear that audio clip in which one could hear that loud gunshots and a heavy exchange of gunfire that only, goes on to possibly say as to what really was going on inside Parliament. I mean, just imagine 3 gunmen storming Parliament and attacking everybody coming their way. Okay, we'll go back to Shiv and Padmaja in just a bit. A quick recap of what's been happening. There have been twin attacks in Iran, one at the Parliament and one at the Holy Imam Khomeini shrine. And we have been getting in reports of a few casualties. We're getting you visuals of, one of the terrorists who was spotted. Speaking of that image, we have consulting editor India Today, Shiv Arur. Shiv, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about this image that we're getting to see, this image of this terrorist holding that rifle in his hands. I mean, I've never seen something like this ever before, of a terrorist posing outside the window for, public to see, for everybody to see, in fact.
It's very rare that an image of this kind would ever be available, especially during a terror operation, Avantika. What we can deduce from this particular image is that this was probably some kind of endgame situation when this terrorist, who's allowed himself to be vulnerable and actually get to that window position, with the assurance that he's going to be seen, photographed, if not actually, eliminated with a sniper shot, making himself come into that vulnerable position is probably a desperate measure. This must have been right in the middle of operations, probably no way out, trying to see if there may be an escape route of some kind. This would be right in the middle of that attack. It's extremely, the possibilities and eventualities that would put a terrorist in that situation are very, very small. Either he's trying to reassess what the counter-terrorism forces really are on the outside as they close in, the Iranian special forces as they close in and take control of that particular situation, or perhaps even see if there is any kind of outside chance of either an escape or extending the terrorist attack in some way possible. Maybe his ammunition was running out. Perhaps he was looking to see if there could be a target he could take a pot shot at on the outside. All of these are possibilities. The image, for all the things that it actually tells us about the situation, there are many questions it obviously raises. And I think if we get more images, more video footage, as well as evidence from the ground of what's really happening, we'll be in a better position to tell precisely what that picture means. But like so many images, in the middle of terror operations, it tells you so many things about what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. Shiv, just stay on with me. Hamza Amir is back with us. Hamza, first of all, just update us with the very latest information that you have about these twin attacks in Iran. What are you hearing with regards to the extent of casualties? Any reactions coming in from the MPs as to what really happened inside Parliament?
Well, yes, in fact, I have spoken to some of the news agencies in Iran, and they have confirmed that, that attack basically was carried out by three people. Two of them had AK-47 assault rifles. One of them had a handgun. Shooting seems to have ended, but the assailants have not been arrested so far. Though, as far as the casualties are concerned, there are at least 4 people who have been injured. One of the guards who was initially reported as targeted and injured in the initial gunfire by the terrorists in the parliament attack, he is reportedly dead. The 4 injured at the parliament, two ordinary clients, a service staffer, and the security guard himself. That is update from the parliament. Though the national, in the latest development, the reporters of the Parliament National Security and Foreign Policy Commission, Hussein Naqavi, has said that the gunfire still is continuing, but the security forces have the situation under control. While another head of public relations department of the parliament, Mehdi Kiai, has said that an open session of the parliament is being held in normal conditions. That seems that, inside the parliament, probably the situation has been taken into control. People have been arrested. The attackers are actually under arrest or either being killed, and it seems to be coming back to normal. Though it is also reported that some other sources from outside and the eyewitnesses are saying that there are still gunfires being heard. Though it is going to be a security council.
Any update on reports of a possible hostage situation? Do we know if all of the parliamentarians are safe? Do we know if they have been evacuated? Is the building still under lockdown?
The building is still under the lockdown. Yes, hostages information is not confirmed. The Interior Minister Abdul Raza Rahmani Fazli has said that has not confirmed anything as far as the hostages are concerned. Even he has not uttered a word when it comes to the terrorists inside the parliament have been killed or arrested or what is the situation. He's only said that there will be an emergency session done of the Tehran Province Security Council. And that is going to be done later today as soon as the situation comes under control. But he has reaffirmed that, the situation as far as the terrorists are concerned is under control, and they're just taking their time to calm the situation down.
And what about the attack that took place at the Imam Khomeini? We hear that, there have been casualties in that attack, and one of the suicide bombers was a woman.
Well, yes, we can only quote news agencies and sources because there are no official words coming out from as far as, the attack on the mausoleum is concerned. But yes, it has been reported that one of the suicide bombers was a female. It has also been reported from very reliable sources that one of the suicide vests was discovered and it was deactivated from the place where one of the suicide bomber actually blew himself up, and in total, as it is being reported, there are at least 4 attackers. One of them has blew himself up. The other seems to be a female, or either the suicide bomber who blew up was a female. One of the suicide vests, another ones have actually been discovered and have been deactivated. So that in that scenario, that the situation is not so clear, only for the fact that the official voices from Iran are not saying a word about that. Side of the story.
All right, Hamza, just continue to stay on with us. I'll keep coming back to you. We just have to slip into a short break right now. Stay tuned. The very latest coming in on the Iranian parliament attack in just a bit.